The diplomatic vessel Times Harmony's Dawn Times moved through space like a silver needle threading through black cloth. Inside the main cabin, Ambassador Hyun-woo checked his uniform for the third time. His hands were steady, but his mind raced with worry. This was humanity's first real meeting with the aliens who ruled the galaxy. 100 years had passed since Earth almost destroyed itself in the Great Wars. Now, finally, humanity was ready to join the stars again. "Stop fidgeting," Jae-won said from his position near the door. The security chief stood tall and calm, his hand resting near his weapon. "You look fine. They'll accept us." Hyun-woo smiled at his old friend. "I hope you're right. We've come so far." The ship's computer made a soft sound. "Entering Talvaran space in 5 minutes," it announced. Hyun-woo walked to the window and stared at the alien world growing larger ahead of them. The planet was beautiful, covered in purple oceans and silver cities that gleamed in the light of 2 suns. This was the home of Queen Lyra Shah, ruler of the Talvaran Empire. She had agreed to meet with Earth's representatives. If this meeting went well, humanity would finally have allies among the stars. "Sir, we're detecting something," the pilot called out. His voice carried a note of worry. "What is it?" Jae-won moved forward quickly. "Ships. 3 of them. They're not Talvaran. The vessel shook violently. Alarms screamed through the cabin. Hyun-woo grabbed the wall to keep from falling. Through the window, he saw bright flashes of weapons, fire cutting through space toward them. "We're under attack," the pilot shouted. "Shields failing." Jae-won grabbed Hyun-woo's arm. "We need to get you to an escape pod. Now." Another blast hit the ship. This time, the lights went out. Emergency red lights came on, painting everything in blood-colored shadows. Hyun-woo could hear the ship's hull groaning under the damage. They were dying in space, and nobody even knew why. Jae-won pulled him down the corridor. Behind them, explosions echoed through the ship. They ran past crew members, rushing to emergency stations. Everyone's face showed the same fear. They were so close to their goal, and now it was all falling apart. "The escape pods are just ahead," Jae-won said. "I'll get you to safety. Then I'll come back for the others." "We should all go together," Hyun-woo argued. "No time. You're the ambassador. You're the mission. Everything depends on you reaching the planet." They reached the escape pod bay. Jae-won's fingers flew over the control panel, opening the nearest pod. Its door slid open with a hiss. The small space inside looked too tiny to save anyone's life, but it was their only hope. A terrible sound made them both turn. Part of the corridor wall exploded inward. Through the smoke, a figure appeared, wearing black armor and carrying a weapon that glowed with deadly energy. The attacker raised his gun, aiming directly at Hyun-woo's chest. Jae-won didn't hesitate. He threw himself in front of the ambassador just as the weapon fired. The blast hit him square in the chest, and he fell backward into Hyun-woo's arms. The smell of burned flesh filled the air. Blood began to spread across Jae-won's uniform, bright red and terrible. "No!" Hyun-woo caught his friend. The attacker was lining up another shot. With strength he didn't know he had, Hyun-woo dragged Jae-won into the escape pod. He hit the emergency launch button as another blast struck where they had been standing. The pod shot away from the dying ship. Through the small window, Hyun-woo watched Times Harmony's Dawn Times break apart in a ball of fire. All those people, all those dreams, gone in seconds. He held pressure on Jae-won's wound, but blood kept flowing through his fingers. "Stay with me," Hyun-woo begged. "We're going to make it." Jae-won's eyes were starting to close. "Tell them. We came. In. Peace. You'll tell them yourself. Don't you dare die on me." The pod's computer was talking, but Hyun-woo barely heard it. Something about trajectory. About landing coordinates. All he could focus on was keeping his friend alive. The pod shook as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Fire surrounded them as they fell through the sky like a meteor. The impact was hard but not deadly. The pod crashed through trees and plants, finally sliding to a stop in soft ground. Hyunwoo's head rang like a bell. He pushed the door open and pulled Jae-won out into alien sunlight. They were in a garden. That much was clear. But this was no ordinary garden. The plants were massive, with leaves the size of cars. Flowers bloomed in colors that had no names in human language. The ground beneath them was covered in something like grass, but it moved gently as if breathing. In the distance, towers rose into the sky. Beautiful and strange. Hyunwoo heard voices. Heavy footsteps approached. He looked up and forgot how to breathe. They were surrounded by aliens. The creatures stood 8 feet tall, with skin that looked like it was made of crystal. Each one had 4 arms and eyes that glowed with inner light. They wore armor and carried weapons. These were the Talvaran, the people Hyunwoo had come so far to meet. But not like this. Never like this. One of them stepped forward. She was taller than the others, and she wore a crown made of light. Queen RealHFY herself. Hyunwoo had seen pictures, but they hadn't prepared him for meeting her in person. She was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. The queen spoke in a musical language. The small translator device in Hyunwoo's ear turned her words into something he could understand. You have violated sacred ground. Explain yourselves before we... She stopped. Her glowing eyes had found Jae-won, bleeding on the ground. The queen went completely still. Her 4 hands began to shake. The guards around her took steps backward, their weapons lowering in what looked like shock or fear. What is wrong? One of the guards asked. The queen knelt beside Jae-won. One of her crystalline hands reached out, touching the blood on his chest. She held her finger up to the light, and the red liquid gleamed like a jewel. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. This can't be real. They bleed red. They actually bleed red. The guards made sounds of fear. Some of them raised their weapons again, but they were shaking too. Hyunwoo didn't understand. What was wrong with red blood? The queen looked at Hyunwoo, and he saw something in her alien eyes he never expected to see. Terror. Pure, absolute terror. Your predecessors, she said. The old ones have returned. Hyunwoo shook his head. I don't understand. We're humans. We're from Earth. We came in peace, but we were attacked. Please. My friend is dying. He needs help. The queen stood. For a long moment, she said nothing. The other guards waited for her command. Hyunwoo could see them debating whether to kill him and Jae-won right there. Finally, the queen spoke. Take them to the medical center. Use every resource we have. Save the injured one's life. But, Your Majesty, one guard protested. If they truly are, I gave an order. The queen's voice was sharp as broken glass. We will learn the truth. But first, we will show them that we are not barbarians. If these are truly the old ones returned, then we must be very careful. And if they are something else. She looked down at Jae-won again. Then we must understand what they are before we decide their fate. Strong alien hands lifted Jae-won gently. They carried him away toward the distant towers. Hyunwoo stumbled along beside them, his mind spinning. Nothing made sense. They had come to make friends, and instead, they were prisoners. All because of blood. All because they bled red. As they walked through the alien garden, Hyunwoo looked at the queen. What are predecessors? He asked. Queen RealHFY turned to him. In the light of 2 suns, her crystalline face looked ancient and sad. Monsters, from the oldest nightmares, she said quietly. The beings who once ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. The ones we thought were gone forever. The ones who could never truly die. Because their blood was red as fire and twice as deadly. She walked away, leaving Hyunwoo standing in an alien garden, under alien suns. wondering what his red blood had just condemned humanity to become. The medical center was unlike anything Hyun-woo had ever seen. The walls glowed with soft light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Strange machines hummed and beeped around Jaewon's body as alien doctors worked to save his life. Their 4 hands moved with incredible speed, pressing devices against his chest, injecting him with liquids that glowed in the dark. Hyun-woo stood outside the room, watching through a transparent wall. He had tried to go inside, but the guards stopped him. Now, he could only watch and hope. His friend's face was pale, too pale. "Come with me." Queen Lirasha's voice made him turn. She stood behind him, no longer wearing her crown. Without it, she looked less like a ruler and more like a person. A very tall, crystalline person with 4 arms, but still somehow more human than before. "I need to stay with him," Hyun-woo said. "Your friend is receiving the best care in the Empire. The doctors will inform us of any changes." Her glowing eyes studied him carefully. "But you and I must talk. Now, there are things you need to understand." Hyun-woo wanted to argue, but something in her voice told him this was important. He followed her through corridors that curved like the inside of a seashell. They passed other Talvaran, who stopped and stared at him with wide eyes. Some whispered to each other. Fear radiated from them, like heat. The queen led him to a private chamber. The room was beautiful, but simple, with windows that showed the purple oceans far below. She gestured for him to sit. When he did, she remained standing, as if she couldn't quite relax around him. "You asked what predecessors are," she began. "I will tell you. But you must understand. This is not just history to my people. It is trauma that has shaped us for 50,000 years. 50,000 years." Hyun-woo tried to imagine such a span of time and failed. Human civilization was barely 10,000 years old. The queen touched a panel on the wall. The room darkened, and holographic images appeared in the air between them. Hyun-woo saw stars, planets, and in the middle of it all, beings that looked almost human. They had 2 arms, 2 legs, stood upright, but there was something wrong about them. Something cruel in how they moved. "The predecessors," Queen Lirasha said. "They conquered the galaxy long before my people even existed. They were unstoppable because of one thing." She paused, and her voice became quieter. "Their blood. Their red blood." The hologram showed a battle. Predecessor warriors fighting against other aliens. Hyun-woo watched in horror as one predecessor was struck down, bleeding red onto the ground. But then, impossibly, the wound began to close. The fallen warrior stood up and continued fighting as if nothing had happened. "They couldn't die," the queen continued. "At least, not easily. Their blood had properties we still don't fully understand. It allowed them to heal from almost any wound. Cut off their arm, and they would grow it back. Pierce their heart, and they would survive. We have records of predecessor warriors fighting for days without rest, healing from injuries that would kill any other being instantly." Hyun-woo felt sick. But surely they could die somehow. Eventually, yes. Through massive trauma, through fire, through complete destruction of the body. But in normal combat, they were nearly immortal. The hologram changed, showing planets in flames. They used this advantage to rule through fear. Any world that resisted was crushed. Any species that fought back was eliminated. For 30,000 years, the galaxy lived in terror. "What happened to them?" Hyun-woo asked. The hologram showed a massive structure in space, crackling with energy. "The Great Coalition," the queen said. "Every free species in the galaxy united for one purpose: to stop the predecessors. We couldn't kill them in normal space, so we did something desperate. We built a dimensional rift generator and lured their entire fleet into it. Then, we collapsed the rift with them inside. And the image showed the predecessor fleet being pulled into a swirling vortex of twisted space. Ships and warriors were stretched and torn apart by forces that shouldn't exist. It killed billions of beings, the Queen said quietly. Coalition and predecessor alike. But it worked. The predecessors were gone. For 50,000 years, the galaxy has been free. She turned to face Hyun-woo directly. And now you appear. Bleeding red. Looking like them. Do you understand why we are afraid? And Hyun-woo's mouth was dry. We're not them. We're humans. We evolved on Earth. We have red blood because of iron in our hemoglobin. It's just biology, not some supernatural power. I want to believe you, the Queen said. But look at the evidence from our perspective. You appear from unknown space. You have their body structure. You have their blood color. And your friend... She stopped herself. What about J1? The Queen turned away. His wound should have killed him. The weapon that struck him was designed to destroy internal organs completely. But when my doctors examined him, they found his body was already starting to heal. Not like ours does. Like the old records describe predecessor healing. Hyun-woo stood up quickly. That's impossible. Humans don't heal that fast. We're fragile. We die easily. Then explain it to me, the Queen challenged. Because my doctors cannot. Before Hyun-woo could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the palace. The Queen's body went rigid. A moment later, a guard burst into the room. Your Majesty. The Galactic Council has been informed. They are demanding answers. Some are calling for immediate action against the humans. The Queen's expression hardened. How did they find out so quickly? Unknown, Your Majesty. But the news is spreading across all systems. Everyone knows about the red-blooded aliens. Hyun-woo felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. This was spiraling out of control. Humanity had barely arrived in the galaxy, and already they were being treated as monsters. The Queen dismissed the guard and turned back to Hyun-woo. The Galactic Council is the governing body of 47 species. They maintain peace and resolve conflicts. But they were also formed from the survivors of the predecessor war. They will not be calm about this. Then let me speak to them, Hyun-woo said. Let me explain. We have evidence, records, proof that we're just another species trying to find our place in the universe. It may not be enough. Fear is stronger than evidence, Ambassador. I learned that long ago. A soft chime interrupted them. The Queen touched her communication device. Yes, the injured human is waking up, the doctor's voice said. They rushed back to the medical center. J1's eyes were open, staring at the ceiling with confusion. When he saw Hyun-woo, relief flooded his face. You're alive, J1 said weakly. I thought for sure. Don't try to talk. You were badly hurt. I feel strange. Shouldn't I be dead? J1 looked down at his chest. The wound was covered with alien bandages, but the skin around it looked pink and new. What did they do to me? And the lead doctor, a Talvaran with darker crystal skin, stepped forward. He looked terrified. We used our most advanced regeneration technology. It's the same treatment we would give to the Queen herself. But your body responded in ways we've never seen. The technology seemed to enhance your natural healing, as if your biology was designed to work with it. Hyun-woo saw the fear in the doctor's eyes. To them, this was proof. Proof that humans were related to the monsters of their nightmares. I need to examine both of you further, the doctor continued. With your permission, I would like to take blood samples, genetic material, anything that might help us understand. No, the Queen interrupted. Not yet. First, we need another expert. Someone who can look at this with fresh eyes. She turned to her guards. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we need their best xenobiologist here immediately. Someone who can study their own species from a scientific perspective. Your Majesty, one guard protested. Allowing more of them to come here could be our only chance to learn the truth, the Queen snapped. Do it. Hours later, Hyun-woo sat with J1 in a comfortable room that was part bedroom, part prison cell. Guards stood outside the locked door. They were alive. but they were definitely not free. "This isn't how I imagined first contact going," J1 said. He was sitting up now, looking much better than someone who had been dying a few hours ago. "None of this makes sense," Hyunwoo said. "Humans can't heal like they described. We don't have supernatural blood. We're just us. Maybe their medicine is just that good. Or maybe..." Hyunwoo stopped, a new thought forming. What if it's not about what we are, but what we might become? What if human biology is compatible with this technology in ways other species aren't? Before they could discuss it further, the door opened. Queen RealHFY entered, and this time, she looked genuinely shaken. "What's wrong?" Hyunwoo asked. "Another ship was attacked," she said. "A research vessel on the border of our space. It was destroyed completely, but before it died, it sent a transmission." She held up a device, showing a frozen image. This is what they saw. The image showed a being in dark armor, covered in blood as it fought. The blood was red. Impossible, terrible red. "The attackers weren't human," the queen said. "But they bled red. Which means one of two things." Her glowing eyes met Hyunwoo's. "Either your people are lying about being peaceful and are already attacking us, or something far worse is happening." "What could be worse?" Hyunwoo whispered. The queen's voice was hollow with dread. "The real predecessors are still alive. And now they know they're not alone in having red blood anymore." The Grand Council chamber was the size of a small moon. Hyunwoo stood in the center of a vast circular platform, surrounded by representatives from 47 different species. Some looked like insects made of living metal. Others were clouds of gas held together by force fields. A few looked almost human, which somehow made them more unsettling. Above him, holographic displays showed his face broadcast to billions of beings across the galaxy. Every eye was on him. Every species wanted to know the truth about the red-blooded aliens from Earth. Queen RealHFY stood beside him, which was the only comfort he had. She had spoken on behalf of humans, arguing that they deserved a fair hearing. But even she looked worried. The mood in the chamber was hostile. Chancellor Vektil of the Korean Dominion rose to speak. He was a massive creature, 12 feet tall, covered in thick scales. His people had suffered terribly under predecessor rule, and the hatred in his voice was clear. "We have seen the evidence," Vektil announced. "These beings possess red blood identical to the predecessors. They have similar body structures. Their wounded heal at impossible rates. What more proof do we need?" His voice boomed through the chamber. "I say we must act now, before they grow stronger. Quarantine their home world. Cut them off from the galaxy. Or better yet..." "You're suggesting genocide," Queen RealHFY interrupted coldly, "based on the color of their blood." "I'm suggesting survival," Vektil shot back. "My people know what happens when you wait too long to act against predecessors. We waited, and half our population was wiped out. We..." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Hyunwoo felt his hope sinking. These beings had made up their minds before he even spoke. "May I present evidence?" A new voice called out. A door opened, and a human woman walked onto the platform. She was small, compared to the aliens around her, but she moved with confidence. Hyunwoo recognized her from the file the Queen had shown him. Dr. Hana, Earth's best xenobiologist. She had arrived just hours ago, and immediately began studying the medical data. "I am Dr. Hana from Earth," she said, her voice amplified through the chamber. "I have examined the biological samples from both humans present here, as well as the ancient predecessor samples in the Talvaran archives. I have findings that I believe are crucial to this discussion. The Council will hear your evidence," the head judge said. Hana activated her datapad, and holographic displays appeared above the platform. "Yes, human blood is red. Yes, predecessor blood was red, but that is where the similarities end." She expanded one display, showing complex molecular structures. Human blood uses iron-based hemoglobin to carry oxygen. It's simple chemistry. The iron oxidizes, creating the red color. She switched to another display. Predecessor blood, according to the ancient samples, used something entirely different. A crystalline structure we still don't fully understand. It's not iron-based. It's not even carbon-based in the way we know. The red color came from a completely different mechanism. Chancellor Vectil leaned forward. Then explain why the human healed like a predecessor. I can, Hana said. The Talvaran medical technology uses bioregenerative fields tuned to work with crystalline cell structures. Most species in this galaxy have some level of crystalline biology, but humans don't. We're purely organic, carbon-based. She paused. However, our cells responded to the technology in an unexpected way. Instead of rejecting it, our adaptive immune system tried to work with it. This created a temporary boost to our natural healing, but nothing permanent. She pulled up medical scans of J1. As you can see, the enhanced healing has already stopped. He's recovering at a normal human rate now. If he were a true predecessor, he would still be healing rapidly. This proves nothing, Vectil argued. Perhaps they simply haven't awakened their full abilities yet. Then let me provide a demonstration, Hyunwoo said suddenly. He pulled a small knife from his belt before anyone could stop him. He drew the blade across his palm, cutting deep. Red blood welled up and dripped onto the white platform. Guards moved forward, but Queen Lyra Shah raised a hand to stop them. Hyunwoo held up his bleeding hand for all to see. I am human, he said. I bleed red. But watch what happens. He held his hand steady. The blood continued to flow. It dripped onto the ground. Minutes passed. The wound did not close. It did not heal. He was simply a man, bleeding and in pain like any mortal creature. Predecessors couldn't do this, Hyunwoo said, his voice steady despite the pain. They couldn't bleed without healing. Their bodies wouldn't allow it. But I am bleeding. I am hurting. And if I don't bandage this wound, I will die from blood loss just like any other fragile being in this universe. Hana moved to bandage his hand, her expression a mix of pride and concern. Humans are mortal, she said to the council. We die easily. Disease kills us. Accidents kill us. Age kills us. We are nothing like the predecessors, except in one superficial way. The color of our blood. The chamber fell silent. Hyunwoo could see uncertainty on some faces now. Not all, but some. It was a start. Then Queen Lyra stepped forward. I have something to add, she said. When the humans first arrived, I was terrified. My people have nightmares about the predecessors even now, 50,000 years later. But I have spent days with these two humans. I have seen them show compassion for each other. I have watched them risk their lives to save one another. I have heard them speak of peace and cooperation. She turned to face the council. The predecessors conquered through fear and cruelty. They took what they wanted and destroyed any who resisted. But these humans came here, seeking friendship. Their ship was destroyed by unknown attackers, and even dying. Their first thought was to explain that they came in peace. Her voice grew stronger. I propose that humans are not. Predecessors returned. They are perhaps distant cousins, evolved down a different path. A gentler path. A path that made them mortal, but also made them kind. A beautiful speech, Vectil said. But it doesn't change the danger. What if you're wrong? What if they're simply hiding their true nature? Then we watch them carefully. Another representative said. This one was from the Zenith Collective, a species known for their wisdom. We allow them into the galaxy, but with restrictions. We observe. We learn. We do not commit genocide based on fear alone. The debate continued for hours. Species argued back and forth. Some wanted humans destroyed immediately. Others wanted them studied like laboratory animals. A few, like Queen RealHFY, argued for giving humanity a chance. Finally, the head judge called for a vote. All in favor of granting humans provisional membership in the Galactic Council, with restrictions and observation. Signal now. Lights appeared above various representatives. Hyun-woo counted them, his heart pounding. 23 votes in favor. All opposed? More lights. 20 votes opposed. Abstaining? 4 lights. The judge nodded. The motion passes. Humans are granted provisional membership, subject to the following conditions. No human military vessels beyond their home system, mandatory observers on all human colonies, and a complete ban on human genetic research until further notice. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even good. But it was survival. Hyun-woo felt his legs go weak with relief. "Thank you," he said to the council. "Humanity will prove worthy of your trust. See that you do." The judge replied, "Because if you fail, there will be no second chance." The council session was ending when alarms suddenly blared throughout the massive chamber. Red warning lights flashed. The head judge's expression turned grave. "We have an emergency transmission from Sector 7, an aide announced. "Another attack. Multiple vessels destroyed." The main holographic display changed, showing static-filled footage. A border station. Its hull torn open. Bodies floating in space. And then, briefly, an image of the attackers before the camera died. They wore armor that looked ancient and advanced at the same time. Their movements were too fast, too fluid, and when one of them was struck by defensive fire, red blood sprayed into the vacuum of space. The wound closed within seconds. The chamber erupted in chaos. Species shouted at each other. Some pointed at Hyun-woo accusingly, but he was as shocked as everyone else. "That's not human," Hana said, staring at the image. "Look at the body proportions. The way they move. That's something else." Queen RealHFY moved closer to the display, her crystalline face reflecting the red warning lights. "I've seen armor like that before," she whispered. "In the oldest records. In the museums. That's predecessor military equipment." Chancellor Vektil's voice cut through the noise. "So they're working together. The humans and the predecessors." "No," the Queen said firmly. "Look at the genetic analysis from the bodies recovered. It's already coming through." She pulled up new data. "These beings share markers with ancient predecessors, but they've been modified, enhanced. Someone has been breeding them." The head judge spoke, his voice heavy. "Explain." "I don't know," the Queen admitted. "But this changes everything. If the original predecessors survived somehow, and if they've been creating new warriors." She looked at Hyun-woo, and he saw genuine fear in her eyes. "Then we're all in danger, human and alien alike." The transmission updated with new information. 3 more outposts had gone silent. The attacks were spreading. Hyun-woo stepped forward. "Let us help. Humanity may share blood with these creatures, but we're not them. We'll fight beside you. We'll prove that red blood doesn't make us your enemies." Vektil laughed bitterly. "Fight? You just admitted your people are fragile and mortal. What can you possibly do against real predecessors?" "We can think," Hana said quietly. "We can adapt. We can work together. Maybe that's something predecessors never learned to do." The Queen looked at Hyun-woo for a long moment. Then she made a decision. "The Council is suspended until we deal with this threat. I'm forming a task force. Humans and aliens working together to investigate these attacks and find their source. If humans truly want to prove themselves, this is their chance." "Your Majesty," Vektil protested, "you cannot seriously." "I am Queen of the Talvaran Empire," she interrupted, her voice like steel. "And I will not let fear rule my decisions. These humans will help us, or we will all die, wondering if we could have won by working together." She turned to Hyun-woo. "Ambassador, gather your people. We leave in 6 hours. We're going to find out where these attackers are coming from, and if we're lucky, we'll find answers before they find us. As the council chamber emptied, Hyun-woo stood beside Jae-won and Hana. They were 3 humans, alone in a galaxy of aliens, about to hunt down monsters that bled the same color they did. "This is insane," Jae-won muttered. "Completely," Hana agreed. "But it's our only choice," Hyun-woo said. He looked at his bandaged hand, still aching from where he'd cut it. His mortal, fragile, human hand. "We're going to show them what humanity really is. Not monsters. Not gods. Just people trying to survive and do the right thing." "And if we fail?" Jae-won asked. Hyun-woo smiled grimly. "Then at least we failed, trying to save everyone. Not just ourselves. That's got to count for something." The task force ship was called Times Unified Dawn *, which Hyun-woo thought was hopeful given the circumstances. It was a Talvaran military vessel, sleek and powerful, designed for speed and combat. Inside, it held an uncomfortable mix of humans and aliens who didn't quite trust each other yet. Queen Lyra Shah commanded from the bridge, her 4 arms moving across controls with practiced ease. Beside her stood representatives from 6 different species, each one an expert in weapons, tactics, or science. And then there were the 3 humans, Hyun-woo, Jae-won, and Hana, who looked tiny and fragile among the larger aliens. "Approaching the coordinates of the last attack," the navigator announced. "Debris field ahead." Through the main window, Hyun-woo saw the remains of what had been a research station. Twisted metal floated in space like broken bones. Bodies drifted among the wreckage, frozen in death. "Life signs?" the Queen asked. "None. Whatever hit them was thorough." Jae-won studied the tactical display. Even though he was still recovering, he had insisted on coming. His security experience was too valuable to leave behind. "The attack pattern is efficient," he said. "They hit the power core first, then the communications, then methodically cleared every section. Professional, military work." "Can we recover any data?" Hana asked. "Already scanning," a Korean technician replied. His species hated humans on principle, but he was professional enough to focus on the mission. "I'm detecting a functioning data core in the central section. If we can retrieve it, we might learn what they saw before they died." The Queen ordered a retrieval team suited up. Hyun-woo volunteered to go, but she refused. "You're an ambassador, not a soldier. Stay here, where you're safe." But she allowed Jae-won to join the recovery team, which Hyun-woo suspected was because she wanted to see how humans performed under pressure. They watched through camera feeds as the team crossed the void on jetpacks, entering the shattered station through a massive hole in the hull. The interior was a nightmare. Burn marks covered the walls. Equipment was destroyed, with what looked like excessive force. In one corridor, they found claw marks gouged deep into metal that should have been impenetrable. "What kind of weapon leaves marks like that?" a team member asked. "Not weapons," Jae-won said quietly. "Those are from hands. They tore through this metal with their bare hands." The team found the data core and brought it back. Hana immediately began working to extract information, while the others gathered around. The first files were routine station logs, but then they found the security footage from the attack. The screen showed a normal day at the research station, scientists working, machines running, then alarms. The main door exploded inward, and through it came figures in dark armor. They moved wrong, too fast for organic beings, flowing through the station like water. One researcher tried to fight back with an energy weapon. The blast hit the attacker, square in the chest, burning through armor. Red blood sprayed. The creature stumbled, and for a moment, it looked defeated. Then the wound closed. The burned flesh regrew before their eyes. The attacker looked down at itself, almost curious, then continued forward and killed the researcher with a single blow. "Freeze that frame," Hana said. The image stopped, She zoomed in on the attacker's exposed face where the helmet had been damaged. Look at the bone structure. The jawline. That's not human. The proportions are wrong, but the healing is right, the Queen said grimly. That's exactly how predecessors were described in the old records. Hana continued reviewing the data. I'm finding genetic material in the recovered debris. Give me a few hours, and I can analyze it. While she worked, the task force searched the debris field for more clues. They found weapons that were thousands of years old, but still functional. They found armor fragments, made from materials that didn't match anything in current databases, and they found a flight path calculation showing where the attackers had come from. It leads to the void sector, the navigator said nervously. Nobody goes there. There's nothing but dead stars and spatial anomalies. There's something there now, Queen RealHFY said. Set course. We're following this trail. The journey took 2 days. During that time, Hana worked non-stop on the genetic analysis. What she found was disturbing. These beings are definitely related to the predecessors, she explained to the command crew. But their DNA has been modified extensively. Someone has been engineering them, enhancing their natural abilities. The healing factor is stronger. Their physical strength is greater. They're not natural predecessors. They're something worse. Who could do this? Hyunwoo asked. The predecessors have been gone for 50,000 years. Not gone, a tactical officer said quietly. We always assumed they were dead. But what if some survived? What if they've been hiding all this time? Rebuilding, the thought chilled everyone in the room. An enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years. Now with 50,000 years to plan their return. Approaching the coordinates, the navigator announced. I'm detecting something massive ahead. It's inside a rogue planet's core. The rogue planet was dark and cold, drifting between stars. But scans showed it was hollow. And inside that hollow space was a structure. As they got closer, the structure's size became apparent. It was enormous, a facility that could hold millions of beings. No active defenses, J1 observed. Either they don't care about being found, or it's a trap. Only one way to find out, the Queen said. We're going in. They landed the ship in a massive docking bay that was clearly built for vessels much larger than theirs. The architecture was beautiful and terrible at the same time. All sharp angles and flowing curves that hurt to look at too long. The task force split into teams. Hyunwoo, J1, and Hana stayed together, along with Queen RealHFY and 4 of her best warriors. They moved through corridors that seemed to go on forever, their footsteps echoing in the empty space. This place is ancient, Hana whispered. Look at the wear patterns. It's been here for thousands of years. They found the first chamber filled with cylindrical tanks. Inside each tank floated a being, suspended in glowing liquid. They looked almost human, but not quite. Stronger, harder, more perfect. Stasis pods, the Queen said. They're growing an army. How many? Hyunwoo asked. A tall Varan soldier checked a nearby console. According to this, all in various stages of development. Hana was scanning one of the pods. The genetic engineering is incredibly sophisticated. They're taking predecessor DNA and optimizing it, removing weaknesses, enhancing strengths. These beings will be unstoppable if they wake up. Then we destroy this place, one of the warriors said, raising his weapon. Wait, Hyunwoo said. We need to understand who built this. And why now? Why after 50,000 years? A voice answered him from the shadows. Because the time is finally right. They spun around. A figure emerged from a doorway they hadn't noticed. It was tall, built like a human, but covered in cybernetic enhancements. Half its face was metal, one eye glowing red. It wore armor that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. I am Vorthok, the being said, guardian of this facility. And I have been waiting a very long time for visitors. The warriors raised their weapons, but Vorthok didn't seem concerned. You cannot harm me. I am beyond death now. But please, lower your weapons. I wish to talk. Talk? Queen Lirasha's voice was full of fury. You've been attacking our stations. Killing our people. Merely tests, Vorthok said casually. We needed to see how strong the current galaxy has become. The answer is, not very strong at all. You've grown soft in our absence. You're a predecessor, Hana said, studying him with scientific fascination despite the danger. The last of the true blood. Vorthok confirmed. When the dimensional rift took my people, I was caught between worlds. It took me 30,000 years to claw my way back to normal space. When I returned, I found this facility. Left behind by our greatest scientists. They had prepared for our return. He gestured to the stasis pods. For 20,000 years, I have been rebuilding our army, taking our genetic legacy and perfecting it, creating warriors that will make the old predecessors look weak. J1 stepped forward. Why? What's the point? The galaxy has moved on, has it? Vorthok's laugh was bitter. I see the same old species squabbling over the same old territories. Nothing has changed. You need rulers. You need the predecessors to bring order again. We need freedom, Queen Lirasha said. Something your people never understood. Vorthok turned his glowing eye toward the humans. And you three. How interesting. Red blood in beings who are not predecessors. When I first detected you, I thought perhaps some of my people had survived and evolved differently. But now I see the truth. You're something else entirely. He moved closer to J1, studying him. You've been exposed to Talvaran medical technology. I can see its effects in your cellular structure. Tell me, how did it feel to heal like a god? It felt wrong, J1 said honestly. I'm not meant to heal like that. I'm meant to be human, humanity. Vorthok mused. Such a limiting concept. But I see potential in you. Your species has red blood because of iron chemistry. Simple, elegant, and it makes you compatible with predecessor biotechnology in ways these others could never be. He spread his arms wide. I offer you a choice, humans. Join us. Let me enhance you with true predecessor technology. You will be strong, unkillable, rulers of your own destiny. Together, we will bring order to this chaotic galaxy. And if we refuse? Hyunwoo asked, though he already knew the answer. Then you die with the rest. When my army wakes, nothing will stop us. Not the Galactic Council, not the Talvaran Empire, not even you three interesting anomalies. Vorthok's voice was almost friendly. But I would prefer you join us. It would be poetic. Don't you think? The old blood and the new blood, together again. Hyunwoo looked at Queen Lirasha. Then, at his fellow humans. He thought about Earth, about all the struggles humanity had endured. The wars, the near extinction, the slow climb back to the stars. He thought about what they had learned. That strength without wisdom leads to tyranny. That power without compassion creates only suffering. We refuse, Hyunwoo said firmly. Humanity didn't crawl out of darkness just to become the monsters that tried to rule the galaxy before. We're better than that. We have to be. Vorthok sighed. Disappointing. But expected. You're young and idealistic. You don't yet understand that power is the only truth that matters. Then you've learned nothing in 50,000 years. Queen Lirasha said. Power is meaningless, without something worth protecting. So be it. Vorthok pressed something on his arm. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility. I'm accelerating the awakening process. My army will rise in hours instead of years. When they do, they will scour the galaxy clean. Run now. Tell your people what's coming. Let them taste fear, one last time. He vanished through the door, which sealed behind him. The task force tried to blast through, but the metal was too thick. "We need to leave," J1 said. Now. They ran. The Times Unified Dawn Times escaped just as the facility began powering up. Behind them, the rogue planet glowed with energy that hadn't been seen in 50,000 years. Inside, an army of enhanced predecessors was waking up. On the bridge, the mood was desperate. Queen RealHFY sent urgent messages to every world in the Galactic Council. Within hours, the response came back. A massive fleet was gathering. Every species that could fight was sending ships. Even old enemies were joining together because they all understood what was at stake. But Hana wasn't paying attention to the military preparations. She was locked in the medical lab, studying the data they had stolen from the facility. She had been working for 18 hours straight, surviving on stimulants and determination. "You need rest," Hyunwoo said, bringing her food she wouldn't eat. "I need answers," she replied, her eyes bloodshot. "There has to be a way to stop them. Something we're missing. What if there isn't? What if we just have to fight? Then we lose." Hana pulled up a simulation. "Look at these combat predictions. Even with our entire fleet, we're outmatched. One predecessor warrior could fight dozens of regular soldiers. An army of them, enhanced to be even stronger? It's not a battle. It's an extinction event." Hyunwoo sat down heavily. "So we're just waiting to die?" "No, we're thinking." Hana's fingers flew across her console. The facility was controlled by a central hub. Everything was connected through some kind of quantum network. If we could access that network, maybe we could shut down the awakening process. But we'd need to get back inside. And even if we did, we'd need predecessor genetic access to use their systems. Exactly. Hana turned to look at him. Which brings us to an interesting problem. We need someone with predecessor genetics, but who isn't loyal to them. That's impossible. All the real predecessors are either dead or like Vorthok. Hana pulled up a genetic chart. Not quite. J1's DNA has been altered by exposure to predecessor medical technology. The changes are minor, but they're there. His cells carry markers that might trick their systems into recognizing him as one of them. Might, she admitted. But it's the only chance we have. They brought the plan to Queen RealHFY. She listened, her crystalline face unreadable. When they finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You're asking J1 to go back into that facility and interface with technology that could kill him," she said finally. "Yes," Hyunwoo said. "I know I'll do it," J1 said. He had been listening from the doorway. "If there's a chance to stop this, I'll take it. You almost died once already," the Queen reminded him. "And you saved me. Now I get to return the favor by saving everyone else." J1 smiled. But there was fear in his eyes. "Besides, I'm the only human who's been stupid enough to get shot by predecessor weapons twice. Might as well make it useful." The plan was simple in theory, impossible in practice. A strike team would fight their way back to the facility. While the predecessor army was still waking up, confused and vulnerable, they would reach the central hub. J1 would interface with it and shut down the awakening process permanently. "And if it doesn't work?" Hyunwoo asked. "Then the fleet hits the facility with everything they have," Queen RealHFY said. "We destroy it completely, even if we destroy our strike team with it." Nobody liked the plan, but nobody had a better one. The galactic fleet arrived 3 days later. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species, all united for the first time in 50,000 years. Hyunwoo stood on the bridge and felt a strange pride. Humanity had barely joined the galaxy, and already they were helping to save it. "The facility is almost fully active," the sensor officer reported. "We're detecting movement inside. The army is waking up." "Then we go now," Queen RealHFY ordered. Before they're ready, the strike team consisted of 20 warriors, including the Queen herself, Hyunwoo, J1, and Hana. They took a fast assault ship and dove toward the rogue planet, while the fleet engaged the facility's automated defenses. Space erupted in fire and light as the battle began. Ancient weapons systems came online, firing at the approaching ships. The fleet fired back, and explosions lit up the darkness. The assault ship slipped through the chaos and landed back in the docking bay. This time, it was different. The lights were on. The air was warm, and somewhere deeper in the facility, they could hear sounds of movement. They moved quickly through corridors that Hyunwoo remembered from before. But now, there were beings moving in the shadows. Predecessor warriors, newly awakened, confused, but dangerous. The strike team fought running battles through the facility, leaving bodies behind as they pushed deeper. Jae-won led them through passages that shouldn't have been familiar to him. But somehow he knew where to go. The predecessor technology in his cells was calling to the facility, guiding him. They found the central hub in a massive chamber at the facility's heart. It was beautiful and terrible. A sphere of crystalline circuits and quantum processors, pulsing with energy. Around it, newly awakened predecessors were gathering, drawn to their technology like moths to flame. "We have to reach it," Jae-won said. "There are too many." "A Talvaran," warrior replied. The predecessors numbered in the hundreds now, and more were arriving every moment. Queen Lyra Shah made a decision. "The strike team will hold here. By time, the 3 humans will reach the hub." "Your Majesty, you can't. I am Queen of the Talvaran Empire," she interrupted, "and I will not let fear rule my actions. Now go." The warriors formed a defensive line, weapons firing at the advancing predecessors. Hyunwoo, Jae-won, and Hana ran for the hub, while the battle raged behind them. They were almost there when Vorthok appeared, blocking their path. The cyborg guardian looked amused. "So you came back. I respect the courage, even if it's futile." Jae-won didn't hesitate. He charged at Vorthok, while Hyunwoo and Hana kept running. Behind him, he heard the sounds of fighting. Metal on metal. Flesh hitting flesh. Hana reached the hub first. She pulled out the data core they had recovered and began interfacing with the alien systems. "I need the genetic access code," she shouted. Hyunwoo looked back. Jae-won was fighting Vorthok, and losing. The cyborg was stronger, faster, and had 50,000 years of experience. Jae-won's human body, even enhanced by predecessor technology, couldn't match him. Then Hyunwoo saw something that made his blood run cold. Every time Jae-won healed from a wound, he moved a little slower. His skin looked paler. He was dying, not from the injuries themselves, but from the effort of healing them. The predecessor enhancements were burning through his life force. "Jae-won," Hyunwoo shouted. "Fall back. Let me help." But Jae-won shook his head. He knew what he was doing. He was buying time, even if it killed him. Behind them, another voice called out. A figure moved through the chaos with grace and power. It was another predecessor. But this one wore different armor. Older armor. She was tall and regal, with features that might have been beautiful if they weren't so alien. The fighting stopped. Even Vorthok paused, turning to face the newcomer. "Queen Shalvara," he said with something like reverence. "You're awake early." "I felt the intrusion," she said, her voice ancient and tired. "I came to see who dared to enter our sanctum." Her eyes found the humans. "Interesting. Vorthok. You did not tell me the new red-blooded species were so small." "They are nothing, Your Majesty." "Merely obstacles." But Shalvara was studying Jae-won with what looked like concern. "That one is dying. I can see it. The technology is rejecting him, burning him from inside." She looked at Hana. "What are you trying to do, small one?" Hana stood straight, refusing to show fear. "Destroy?" Shalvara seemed genuinely puzzled. "Is that what you think we want? Isn't it? Your people conquered and killed for thousands of years. We fought for survival," Shalvara said quietly. "Our sun died. Our world froze. We had to take worlds from others, or die ourselves. Yes, we became cruel. Yes, we became monsters. But we didn't start that way. Your Majesty, Vorthak protested. We have the power now. We can reclaim. What? Shalvara interrupted. Our empire? Our glory? Vorthak, I've been in stasis for 50,000 years, but even in my dreams I remembered. I remembered the fear in our subjects' eyes, the hatred, the endless rebellions. We ruled, yes, but we were alone, always alone. She walked to J1, who could barely stand now. This one sacrificed himself to save others. Even knowing he would die, he fought. She looked at Queen RealHFY, still fighting at the defensive line. That one leads from the front, protecting her people with her own body. She turned to Hyunwoo. And you came here, knowing you would probably die, to stop us from making the same mistakes we made before. Your Majesty, Hana said carefully, we need a genetic code to shut down the awakening process. Only a true predecessor can provide it. Will you help us? For a long moment, Shalvara was silent. Around her, newly awakened predecessors watched, waiting for their queen to make a choice. Would she choose the past or the future? Vorthak, she said finally, you served me well for 50,000 years. But your service is done. Step aside. I cannot, he said, raising his weapon. I will not let you condemn our people to eternal sleep. Then you force my hand. What happened next was too fast to see clearly. Shalvara moved like lightning, disarming Vorthak and destroying his cybernetic enhancements in seconds. He fell, finally defeated, and lay on the ground staring up at his queen with betrayal in his eyes. Shalvara walked to the hub. She placed her hand on the crystalline surface, and it glowed in response. The code is being transmitted, she said to Hana. Use it wisely. Hana's fingers flew across her console. Code poured into the system, overriding safety protocols, shutting down stasis pods one by one. Throughout the facility, the army of enhanced predecessors fell back into dreamless sleep. It's working, Hana said with relief. The process is irreversible. They won't wake again. Outside, the fleet detected the change. The facility's weapons powered down. The threat was over. J1 collapsed. Hyunwoo caught him, holding his friend as his breathing became shallow. The predecessor enhancements had burned too much of his life force. He was dying. Shalvara knelt beside them. I can save him, she said, but he will carry the scars forever, physical and otherwise. Please, Hyunwoo said. The ancient queen placed her hands on J1's chest. Energy flowed from her into him. Not the destructive predecessor technology, but something gentler. Healing that preserved instead of consuming. When she was done, J1 was breathing easier. He will live, Shalvara said. Though I would not recommend he do anything like this again. I don't plan to. J1 whispered weakly. Queen RealHFY approached, her warriors behind her. She looked at Shalvara with a mix of respect and caution. What happens now? No. Now? Shalvara looked around at her sleeping army. Now I remain awake to guard them. I accept whatever punishment the galaxy decides for my people's crimes. Perhaps, in time, some of them can be awakened and taught a better way. But that choice is not mine to make alone. You could run, Hyunwoo said. You're powerful enough. I could, Shalvara agreed. But I'm tired of running. Tired of fighting. After 50,000 years, I think it's time to try something different. Redemption, perhaps. Or at least acceptance of our failures. Months passed. The galaxy slowly recovered from the shock of what had almost happened. The predecessor facility was sealed but preserved, guarded by a joint force from multiple species. Shalvara remained in a special prison that was part cell, part research facility. She cooperated with scientists, teaching them about predecessor technology and history. Some called her a war criminal. Others saw her as someone trying to make amends. J1 recovered, though he chose to retire from active duty. The strain had been too much. He lived quietly now, sometimes visited by Queen RealHFY, who had developed a deep respect for human resilience. Hana continued her research, but now she worked with scientists from dozens of species, studying how they could learn from each other instead of what divided them. And Hyunwoo remained Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, which had fully accepted humanity as members. The restrictions were lifted. Humans could explore, colonize, and build relationships throughout the galaxy. One day, Hyunwoo stood in an observation station orbiting Earth. A young cadet approached him. A girl barely 20 years old, eager to serve on a starship. "Ambassador," she said nervously, "is it true? Are humans really related to the predecessors?" Hyunwoo smiled. He had heard this question many times. "We share red blood, and perhaps some very distant ancestry. But you know what? That's not what defines us. What does define us? Choices," Hyunwoo said simply. "The predecessors chose conquest. They chose to rule through fear. We could have chosen the same path. We had the opportunity when Vorthok offered us power. But we chose differently. We chose cooperation. We chose to protect instead of dominate. That's what makes us human." The cadet nodded, understanding. She looked out at Earth, beautiful and blue, covered in clouds and cities. Around the planet, ships from a dozen different species moved peacefully, working together on projects that would benefit everyone. "It's beautiful," she said. "It is," Hyunwoo agreed. "And it almost didn't happen. If humans had arrived at a different time, or if we had reacted with violence instead of patience, everything could have gone wrong. But we got lucky. We met Queen RealHFY, who was brave enough to give us a chance. We met Dr. Hana, who was smart enough to find the truth. We met J1, who was selfless enough to sacrifice everything. And we met you," the cadet said, "who had the courage to cut yourself in front of the entire Galactic Council, just to prove we could bleed." Hyunwoo touched his palm, where a scar remained from that day. Sometimes the simplest truths are the hardest to prove. We are mortal. We can die. We are not gods or monsters. We're just people, trying to find our place in a vast, complicated universe. Far away, in her cell, Shalvara watched the same Earth through a monitor. She saw the human world surrounded by alien ships, saw cooperation where there had once been conquest. And for the first time in 50,000 years, the last true predecessor queen smiled. Perhaps, she thought, the red blood had found a better purpose after all. Not for ruling or destroying, but for connecting, for reminding everyone that underneath the different skin colors and body structures, all living beings bled. All could hurt, all could heal, all could choose to be better than their ancestors. And in that simple truth, there was hope. Not just for humanity, but for every species that looked up at the stars and wondered if they could be more than what they were. The answer, as it turned out, was always yes. You could always choose to be better. You could always choose compassion over cruelty. You could always choose to build instead of destroy. That was the real gift of humanity to the galaxy. Not power, not strength, but the simple, revolutionary idea that what flowed through your veins mattered far less than what lived in your heart. And that was a lesson worth bleeding for.